Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Maybe it's not even afternoon where you are. I think pretty much it is because it's 4 o'clock now, so it would even be noon in Alaska. So good afternoon. And I want to welcome you to today's broadcast. This is one of the sessions in a series of broadcasts that we call Ask Us. And the reason we use that name is because it's about having a discussion. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. So welcome to Ask Us. And I am Bonnie Murray.
And I'm Caroline Montgomery. And we're here at NASA Langley Research Center in the DLN studios. Thank you so much to the DLN studios for providing the support so that we can do events like this.
Yes, I want to thank, while we're on that topic, I want to thank Karen Long. You're not seeing Karen, but she's behind the scenes, as is Devon Ortiz, and they are helping us out with the technical elements. Getting these broadcasts out to you and having everyone connected is something that takes a joint effort, and we greatly appreciate the collaboration of the DLN. So Caroline and I work on a project called ESTEAM, and we'll give you some detail about that a little later in the broadcast, but let me just say now that ESTEAM is an acronym. We are NASA, so we focus on a lot of acronyms, and ESTEAM stands for Earth Systems, Technology, and Energy Education for, and this is the important part, MUREP. MUREP is a division of NASA. It's a program within NASA that is the Minority University Research and Education Program. And so that's really the funder behind these broadcasts, and we thank MUREP for making these broadcasts possible. We work with that project, and we focus specifically on tribal colleges and universities and American Indian communities and Alaska Native communities. So that's the focus behind today's broadcast. There's been a lot of information out about the Eclipse, and we want to take some time today to talk about that topic from an American Indian perspective. So MUREP is the focus behind all of that. Let's see, I put some notes for myself. I think I'm going to skip that. I do want to mention there are recordings of every one of these broadcasts. Today's broadcast will be recorded as well, and it will be available on the ESTEAM website. I mentioned that for several reasons. Number one, if you are interested in seeing this later, you can go back there and find it. And number two, please keep in mind if you're connected in the Hangout with us, and I will introduce everyone in a second, that you are on camera being broadcast out to the audience, and the recording will be posted on the internet at a later date. Okay, so let's start by welcoming everyone. First of all, I want to welcome the remote audience. So they can't see, we can't see them, but we want to welcome you all in. We know there are several of you watching. And Caroline, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the chat feature because Caroline's going to be monitoring that.
Okay, yep. So I am monitoring the YouTube live stream that you guys are watching as the remote audience. So there is a chat feature there. If you just wave your mouse over the part that says chat, it should ask you to sign in with your Google account. And then you can ask us any questions that you might have, even though you're not an active participant in the Google Hangout. And I will be watching that. So anytime you have a question, I'm going to keep looking over here, and we'll try and answer that for you throughout the broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ask us.
And ask us. Yeah, and ask us.
And you can ask us any questions. I saw how she slipped that in there. Yeah, that was good. And again, this is intended to be a dialogue. So we very much, this is not a webinar. I just want to emphasize this in the beginning again. If you think you are watching a webinar and came to a webinar, that's not what really this is about. Yeah, this is about a conversation and getting together to talk. Okay, well then next I want to welcome in the people who are in the Hangout with us, if you will. So we have several people, and if you're watching, you can see them as little windows down at the bottom. So let's just go across the bottom and say hello to everyone who's here. So Daniela, we'll start with you. We'll just go left to right. Daniela Scalase is with us. Hi, Daniela.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Very good, very good. We're happy you're here. Daniela leads a working group. It's the American Indian Alaska Native Working Group. Daniela works for NASA. She is part of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, and the work that she does most closely related to this broadcast is the American Indian Alaska Native Working Group. Did you want to say anything else at this time, Daniela?
No, that's it. I'm just happy to be here and contribute to the conversation.
All right, great. And where are you connecting from today?
My office in Maryland.
In Maryland, okay, all right. We're kind of making geographic points across the country, so we'll continue moving. Thank you. We're here in Virginia. I don't know if we said that. NASA Langley Research Center is in Virginia. Alrighty, so let's move across the screen. Next, we have the DLN studio up at Goddard Space Flight Center, and that'll be good to go to next because they're also in Maryland. So hello to you at Goddard.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Lonnie Grand. This is Jay Lee, and I work in Earth Science Communications, and Jay is a research scientist here at NASA Goddard.
Awesome. All right. Yes. So, Ronnie, we're glad you're with us. And Jay, it's nice to meet you. Yes. Ronnie and I will be talking later. Ronnie will be sharing some information about the eclipse, science of how the eclipse happens, what is it that is the order of things that causes the eclipse, and then some of the science, that NASA is doing during the eclipse. So we'll get back to that in just a minute. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so let's keep going across here, and we're going to go way up north now to Elena Sparrow. Hello, Elena.
Hi. Oops.
Hi. Hi, Elena is joining us from the IARC, the International Arctic Research Center. I had the privilege of going up there to work with Elena there this summer, and it was wonderful. I got to touch the permafrost. Elena is the Globe Partnership Coordinator in Alaska. So we'll be talking about the Globe Observer app a little later in the broadcast, Elena. So I know you'll be able to chime in there, and we're happy that you're with us. Anything else you want to say at this time?
No, I don't think so. I'm happy to be joining this chat.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You are very welcome, Elena. We're very glad you're here. Thank you. All righty, and then we want to go over to Wind River Tribal College. So Wind River, maybe you'll say hello.
Hello.
All righty, hi. And if you would just go across and tell me your name.
Hockey Day.
Okay, hello and welcome.
Hockey Day means red paint tree. My English name is Darren Spoonaker. I'm a driver here at Wind River Tribal College, and I'm glad to be here.
Hello, Terrence. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, who else is there?
Hello, my name is Santos James. My English name is Odelia Sage.
I couldn't hear your name. There's a little bit of feedback, and it'll be just fine, but just say your name for me again.
Odelia Sage.
Okay.
Odelia Sage.
Got it. And I'm writing it down because my memory's not that good. Hi, Ophelia. Very wonderful to have you with us. All right, who else is there?
Dos, Nidini Vane and Asena, Nika Jana, the Ankana, Nisa Kena, he dash the old girls, and hello, my name is Chloe Jenkins. I'm a cultural resource specialist and also a Russell language instructor here at the Wind River Tribal College, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. We are very glad you're here. Yes. And I'm going to stop there a minute and talk about this a bit. So we're especially excited to have Wind River with us because this broadcast today is actually part of a bigger event or an on-site event. I don't know, we don't need to talk about size, but it's part of another event that we will be doing. So Caroline and Ronnie, who you met just a few minutes ago, will be going out to Wind River for the eclipse. They'll both be there on Sunday, August 20th, and they will be on site there doing an information session similar to what we're going to do today. So that's time for conversation, time for talking about the eclipse, and most importantly, talking about Native American customs and traditions around the eclipse. So that'll be happening at Wind River, and that was a request that came from Marlin at Wind River. And as we talked about doing that event, we thought that it would be really a neat idea to do a virtual event as well, because not everyone who might want to be part of this conversation can get out to Wyoming. And so we're excited to be able to bring this virtual broadcast to you in addition to the activities that we'll be doing at Wind River. So thank you for the invitation to come out there and visit with you. All right. Did I worry you all? I just stepped out for a minute. Oh, I apologize. Not sure what happened there. Technology is wonderful when it works, and we just have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G when it does not. So I'm not sure what happened, but we just fell off of the Hangout for a moment. But we're back, so I apologize for that blip. What I was going to say is let's get the conversation started. So let me say first that Karen, our producer, is muting and unmuting your mics if you're in the Hangout with us. So all you need to do is raise your hand. You can see me doing that. So raise your hand. We will call on you once in a while, just to try and get your viewpoints on things. But for the most part, just let me know when you want to participate, and Karen will be watching, and she will unmute you, and you'll be able to talk with us. And then, as Caroline already said, if you're in the virtual audience, you can send your questions in through the chat, and Caroline will be monitoring the chat. So I want to start today by talking about this idea of the Native American traditions. We've talked a lot about the eclipse, and one of the first things people ask is, how do I get glasses? And that very question tells me that knowledge about Native American traditions centered around the eclipse is not common knowledge, because as I understand, I'm certainly not a person who has experienced this myself, but as I understand from talking with members of the Native American community, not everyone in that community watches the eclipse or even thinks that it's something that should be watched. So what I have done is I've tried to do some research to understand this and learn about it. And one of the things that I found was this book. So let me hold that up there for you can kind of see that. I got it out at Fond du Lac Tribal Community College, and it interested me because I like watching the constellations. Well, what I found is, as it says in here, the stories of the constellations are a reflection of life on the land. And as I started researching the traditions around the eclipse, I found the very same piece of information. There were several stories that I found that had stories of constellations and animals trying to solve the problem, the challenge of the eclipse, because from that perspective, the sun had gone away, and that was a problem that needed to be solved. So I say this as a point of interest. There are many books to read and many different perspectives to watch, but this is where I'd really like to open up the conversation. And we'll start at Wind River. Are there any stories that you would like to account? Maybe things that you heard from others in the community or things you experienced yourself? What kind of traditions are you aware of that focus on the eclipse? So we'll go back over to Wind River for that. And while we're on storytelling, yes, go ahead.
We're on. Well, one of our elders that was supposed to be here, he's on the road right now, and he's traveling, and he had some good information on some of the things that didn't really pertain to the eclipse, because in my research that I have done, we haven't really found that much. But in earlier times and some stories that were handed down, it was kind of like it wasn't a very good omen. But there are other times when they would pray during the eclipse, and depending on the colors, they would fire arrows at the moon at that time. And so the information that I've got is it isn't too much about. Although our people really did have a lot to do with the cosmos. The Arapaho name, we're called the Sky People, and we have a lot of relationship with the stars. So there's other stories, but none really pertaining directly to that full eclipse such as this one.
To that event, yeah. Do you think we should share the Arapaho page for a moment at this time? It's up at the top there.
If they would like to, we
Yeah.
have it up. Just so you guys are aware, if you need it, we have the Arapaho Project website up at any time, but we don't want to, you can share what you want, but just so you know, we've got it up. Want us to pull it up for everyone to see, we can do that.
Yeah.
Well, can I just put this up next to that?
Just tell them the title of it.
Oh, okay. The title of the one that I would like to share is "The Skies of the Human Head."
Okay. All right. So would you like us to share the website?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's it.
There we go.
All right, and then you come down to the Hangout.
Okay.
Oh, you need to find the one you're
Yeah.
looking for. My apologies. Yeah, one person clicking, one person talking. Great. So we will share this website in just a moment. Right now, we're finding the story. Just tell us the name of it again.
The skies and the human head.
Do you know what?
Yeah, I'm gonna share it.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's share.
And then he can help us
Right,
find
because
it.
we need to navigate through the website. Yeah, we're doing all the sharing over here today just to simplify things. But you will need to help us navigate through the website, please.
Oh, you're sharing?
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Do you see it?
okay, well, what it refers to is, customarily when we would pray to the skies, we would face the east, and we would raise our hands and put that, bow your head, and the parting of the hair, represents the path of the sun. And, you know, for the day, whatever you're planning to do for the day is what you pray to accomplish during the day. And because of that, path is, you know, it's right next to your brain. It's right on the back of your head. And a lot of the pieces of the hair would be kept too for, you know, different, I guess what the world calls like talismans and stuff, but there were a lot of different uses for it that they put, you know, on top of babies' cradles, and, you know, because it was something from the sun, combined everything, the sun, the earth, the sky, and ourselves. And like I said, it's everything is round, the head is round, the earth, the sun, and so it's in that relationship that we are within the cosmos, and a lot of our stories, our beliefs.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
oh yeah, it's not just so
With,
You guys came prepared. And all the stories there.
Yeah, you are. That's awesome. And while you're finding the next piece that you want to share, I will just say that if you're wondering what the Arapaho website is, honestly, we Googled it. We went to Google and we Googled the Arapaho, and it's from Colorado State University. So if we Googled Arapaho College EDU, and that site came up. And we will post, I'll mention this also while you're looking, when you go to watch the recording at the end, when this is all over, we will post any of the websites that we talk about today there as well. So you'll have everything then. All right, so back to you at Wind River. If you
Okay.
want. All righty.
A total eclipse of the sun predicted event that would affect all the people unfavorably, such as an epidemic of sickness. Quoting Sage, formerly in very old times when someone announced that it looked as though the sun and moon were exchanging places, the Arapaho men took their arrows and stood outside the teepees, waiting for the sun to turn reddish. That occurred just as the sun and moon exchanged places. Sometimes things did not turn reddish. That occurred when the sun and moon only met and did not exchange places. But if they exchanged places, it meant sickness was coming to the tribe, and all the men that then shot the arrows directly at the eclipse. All the other Indians during this time sat in their teepees singing and making fumes by burning cedar and praying. Yeah.
Anne Wolf had been told by her grandmother of an eclipse of the sun that occurred when the Arapahoes first settled in Wyoming. The sun disappeared entirely, her grandmother said. It was dark like dusk. They could hardly see anything. They wondered what would happen if the sun would be gone forever. Old men wondered how they would get buffalo then. But in a few hours, the sun was back again. My grandmother also told me when I was 2 years old, we had a partial eclipse. People were frightened. Some went to ask the white man if he thought the sun would stay away always now. He told them not to worry, it would come back, and it did come back. Anne had never heard the old people discuss an eclipse of the moon. It's from the Arapaho Child Life in 100 Years of Old Man Sage. Oh, Kilger. Quoting from Sherman Sage, my great-great-grandfather. Thank you.
Thank you. What a privilege that you'll share that with us. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that was really wonderful. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure to hear that. And it's very interesting to hear that the diversity of stories too. You know, there's so many different elements to the stories. Any comments from those who are watching? And Goddard, if you want to unmute, if that's okay. I see, we don't see you, we're just seeing your, yeah, there we go. So let me toss this over to those who are in the Hangout. Imagine we're all in a room, just not breathing the same air. Any comments from anyone else? And like I said, you can just raise your hand or let me know you want to talk.
How are you all prepared for the eclipse? How are you all prepared for the eclipse with your community?
Can you hear Ronnie okay? She's saying how you're all preparing for the eclipse, for this eclipse that'll be happening in a few weeks.
Here, for us, for us here at Rockport, traditionally, if you like traditions, there's comments and that traditionally some will just not watch it and stay home and pray and stay inside, pray and cedar, and then there's others who are looking forward to it because it won't never happen again for so many years. But there's other tribes that we have people married into different tribes, and some of their stories are similar to the Ruffle, and so the ones that I've seen prefer to just stay in and stay home.
Now,
Great.
how many people live on your reservation? Because it seems like there are a lot of people coming that will see your reservation and the people that live there. Does it make you nervous?
Well, there's a lot of, we have like the Homeland Security that they've kind of beefed up the police. They're asking for the surrounding states to bring in some state police to help with the crowds, and people have been encouraged to stock up on food supplies because they're counting on a whole lot of people coming out here. But as far as the beliefs of the eclipse of what it's bringing or what it won't bring, we all know that all motels are sold out. So there's going to be a lot of extra people. There's people renting out their land for campsites, and so the amount of garbage is they don't know how they're going to collect all the garbage that's going to be brought in. And so it is kind of a stressful thing, you know, with their safety issues. But like I said, local police, for one of the meetings I attended, they said that they're asking for help to be brought in. And so, but traditionally, it's all, so far as I've seen, it's more of an individual choice on how they will prepare for it, or what they're going to do. Myself, I'm planning on watching it, so, you know, it's just all like an individual choice of what people are going to do. Last minute, I might not watch it again too, so.
Wait until the last minute to decide, yeah, and I imagine that is. Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting, you know, the eclipse is going across the United States, but I forget the number, but it is moving directly across a number of reservations. Of course, Wind River is one of them in Wyoming, but there are, I think the number of 20-something is in my head, but you know, there were several reservations that it will cross directly over. So that is an interesting just course of events. I agree. Yeah. It's bringing a lot of people into the area. That we spent some time in North Dakota recently, and there were nice wide open roads, you know, but that's not going to be that wide open. Anybody else in the chat window? Danielle, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on this. I know you are of Navajo background, and I welcome any thoughts that you may have as well, or questions or comments.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I'm not of Navajo background.
I apologize. I thought you had told me that once.
Oh,
so
no.
Danielle and I have not met in person yet. We've talked on the phone and over the camera many times. So I'm still learning too. My apologies, Danielle.
No worries, no
Fill
worries.
me in.
No, I'm a regular old white girl from Connecticut, but I have been in a collaboration with the Navajo Nation for the past, we're in our 13th year now. So been working together to bring together traditional knowledge and cultural knowledge with scientific knowledge of the stars and the moon and NASA-related things in general. We've created 2 educator guides with hands-on activities that do just that, again, bringing together the 2 ways of knowing, so that Navajo youth can be inspired by and interested in science without compromising their cultural identity. Cultural identity comes first. So that's a little bit of my background and why I'm here, part of this discussion, and thank you again for bringing me in. It's wonderful to make new connections with new colleagues out in Wyoming, so appreciate the opportunity to do that, and hello, and thank you for joining us and being part of the dialogue out there in Wyoming. One thing I just wanted to contribute is my opinion, which is that so often in NASA and in Western science education broadly, we kind of have these mindsets where everything scientific and is good and right and excellent, and everything education oriented is good and right and excellent, and everyone should be wanting these things and wanting to consume these things, and you know, NASA is happy to offer them, and of course, why wouldn't you partake? Sort of almost, what's wrong with you if you don't partake? And I just, in my experience, things are a little bit more subtle and nuanced than that in at least my collaboration with the Navajo Nation, and I suspect with many others, tribes and tribal educational organizations and their collaborations with entities like NASA. And what I mean by more nuanced is not only do we think of education, capital E, writ large, education as the most wonderful thing in the world, you know, education wasn't really wonderful for Native Americans post-contact, post-colonialism, and it was really a second-line policy to genocide. And so it behooves us as science educators in the mainstream Western communities to be aware of that and to understand the history and the trauma that our current Native American colleagues and their ancestors have experienced in the name of education, and be sensitive to what that might mean. But with respect to the eclipse, at least again, in my collaboration, the collaboration I'm a part of with the Navajo Nation, my colleagues do not consume the eclipse. They don't take the eclipse. They, the traditional knowledge and directive is for people to be inside and to wait and do nothing and rest and let the eclipse occur and then pass, and then it's safe to go outside. I'm not privy to the knowledge as to why this is the case, but for my part, I don't need to know why. That's not my place. My place is to appreciate that that was shared with me and respect automatically that traditional knowledge and promote that it is good and it is right and it is appropriate for we as Western science educators to respect that tradition and celebrate that tradition as part of the grand tapestry of traditions that we are all a part of. So I invite you all to embrace that if and when you come across it with your Native American colleagues and friends, and celebrate it.
Thank you, Daniela. Yes, that's a really important perspective to keep in mind. We're talking about the eclipse right now, but in general, as we share science data even, if the data conflicts with something that's already in existence, that doesn't make either one bad. There are two different perspectives, and there may be 3 or 4 or multiple, and each one should be accepted and valued equally, and that's a very important piece to keep in mind. Yes. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And thanks for the correction too. See, I'm learning. I'm learning so much.
We do have some comments coming in.
Thank you for reminding me. Yes, some comments and questions.
Yeah,
why don't you share some of those, Caroline? And then if there's anyone else that wants to speak, we'll come back to you in just a minute.
Yeah. So we've got a comment from Greg. And I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong because you're not here to correct me. But Greg, Smestad, I think is how you say his last name. And he shared an article that's really interesting. Just came out the other day, and it's about a petroglyph image that was found in Chaco Canyon. That they think that it might represent a total solar eclipse, just like the one we're about to witness, from the year 1097. So that might have been reported by the New Mexico Pueblo people. And Bonnie and I are going to be sharing some resources at the end of the broadcast, so I can pull that up and include it so that you guys can check it out on your own time. But he wanted to share that with us. That's really, really special, a unique article to read. And Anita Davis says that the Cherokee.
Hi, Anita.
Yeah. Says that the Cherokee cultural eclipse celebration in North Carolina will be honoring the traditional belief that the eclipse is caused by a giant frog swallowing the sun or moon. And she says to scare the frog away, people make loud noises during the eclipse. So just another perspective being shared from a different tribe on what to do during an eclipse like this. We've also got a question from Anita just now, and she says she'd like to hear others chime in on when, if ever, is it appropriate for people outside of a particular tradition to share traditions and stories from those traditions. So
great question. And Anita, I'll say, first of all, thank you again for joining us. And thank you for bringing up that question. Because I mentioned that I had started to do research with my book and websites, and that is something that Caroline and I came across, that sometimes the traditional knowledge is not appropriate to be shared. So does someone at Wind River want to talk about that? Or we can go back to Daniela, or we haven't heard from Eleni yet either. So we'll start though at Wind River. I'm going to give you first preference. Would you like to comment on that? Ophelia, I see you there.
And if you need me to repeat the question, I can do that because it was kind of long.
But in a nutshell, tell me if I got it. When and if is it appropriate to share traditional knowledge?
Yeah. That's okay. About it. I think it's also saying for people, when is it appropriate for people outside of a tradition to share traditions?
I think that you guys may be muted there. Karen will do the muting and unmuting. So, but I think maybe you muted there, so we'll need you to unmute, please, if you could. So, Ophelia, if you will, thanks. I see you jumping up.
Yeah. Technology.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm happy that we can be together here because we couldn't travel and do this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, they're asking a question.
Okay. Traditionally, when the Arapaho see the eclipse, usually they go inside, stay inside, burn incense, burn cedar, and pray. There's also stories that go along with the sun and the moon, they're brothers. And there's a lot of stories behind those, the cosmos. It's said that the sun goes into hiding when it goes behind the moon, and so the sun is hiding. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful. And you know, in a way, it kind of is, right? So that's very, very wise, very observant. Yes.
Can you repeat the question again? That was for.
Yes, yes. She asked, when, if ever, is it appropriate for people outside of a particular tradition to share traditions and stories from those traditions? So if we were told a story, but we're not a part of that tradition, would it ever be appropriate for someone outside of that to share it?
Yeah, it would be, because
Okay.
you know, this, the information is appropriate to share because it was written a long time ago, like for today, for the future. And this was written by an author named, her last name was Gilbert, and it was written in the book of Arapaho Child Life. So there's been books that have been written, you know, for information for, you know, like later on in the future. And so this writing is, you know, helped us out today because it's from long, you know, years ago, and a lot of us today didn't really know of the story of our eclipse. I mean, just this part, what we know is gives us knowledge of it now to pass on to the next generation. Even though it's not that, it's not a lot of information, but what's there, we know that now today. And so it's already written, so it can be shared. It's appropriate to share it.
Okay.
And because, especially if it has to do with research, because that's what we had to do. We had to research for stories on the eclipse.
Right.
It's written so it could be passed on to the next generation.
Right. Very important. And then there are some oral traditions that are passed on, right? I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? I apologize.
There's, well, within each different tribe, they know when it's time to stop. To, however much information they're going to share. There's you know, an appropriate amount that they will reveal. I mean, we have a lot of, you know, non-native friends that worship with us. And, you know, because they're sincere about it. But, you know, there's at a certain point that there are maybe a few things that we wouldn't share with them. And as with other tribes, they know that there's a cutoff point. And so as far as stories, the stories, many of them before had a moral to them. It was like a lesson that was taught. And so the individual would know, you know, what stories, like the ones that we have written, they were preserved for us because there was a time they said we would not write the language down. And then at the pace that the things were changing, they figured, well, this is a good idea to write it down so that, because a lot of our stuff was stripped away, as you know, was mentioned earlier, through the educational system and the government. And so some of it was allowed to be recorded. They allowed people to come in to record certain things. And that was a good thing because it has preserved some of our stories and, you know, some of the information that may have been lost. But as far as traditional ways and things like that, the individuals usually we'll know when there's a cutoff point. So that's,
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for helping us answer that question for Anita.
And
Yeah.
Anita is watching, so she can hear your answer. You just can't see Anita.
Yeah.
But Anita, I believe, will be down in South Carolina herself. I think that's where she's going, somewhere in that area, and she'll correct us if not. I do know that there is going to be an observation of the Native American traditions as part of the event in South Carolina. And they will be using some of the instruments, the drums, I believe, and they will be playing the drums as the eclipse starts to pass to bring back the sun. So I think that's a beautiful combination.
Yeah, I think it's happening in North Carolina, though.
Oh,
I think that's
Okay.
where that one is.
all right. I thought that was
But-
Charleston, South Carolina. There are events throughout the
hard to keep them
Carolinas. Yes,
straight.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, and by the way, we're going to show you the Eclipse website at the end of this broadcast. So you will be able to see where all of the different events are that are happening. So I think I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. And the intention of this session was to blend the traditional knowledge and the Native American perspectives with some of the science as well. So I know Ronnie is in the studio up at Goddard. We saw her. And if you'll get ready to share, yes. And Elena, if you had a thought you wanted to share, don't lose it, okay? We'll get back to you. But I want to give Ronnie a chance to tell us a little bit about the science behind what we know is happening. When it was interesting, we talked about the sun hiding behind the moon, and that's what made me think of you. I'm like, well, actually, that's pretty much what's happening. So do you want to go ahead and share the science part that you have?
Why don't we just go first to answering what is an eclipse?
Okay.
And it's when, if you want to play the first animation, we can show it. It's where the moon comes between the sun and the earth. And what's kind of unique about our moon, we're lucky that the moon is where it is and has the shape it has to make this perfect eclipse of the sun. And on other planets, actually, those shapes don't line up, and they call it transits versus an eclipse. And so because of our luck with the size of the moon and distance from the sun, it creates this perfect shadow. You go to the next animation. And we see that shadow go across the U.S. and we're pretty lucky to have it come across the U.S. I can't remember last time this has happened in the U.S., but many, many years ago. I don't know if Jay remembers. But it's a 70-mile width. No matter where you are in North America, you will see a partial eclipse. There are different percentages. And as Marlon had talked about how many people were coming, was it 150 million people live within a day's drive of totality? And so I know there are a lot of people there. And I just want to give Wind River a lot of credit, despite all the crowds. I think I called up a couple months ago about coming out there, and they are all being gracious hosts. I know how hard some of their folks are working to make sure it's ready for all the people that are coming and accommodating everybody that's coming there. From a NASA point of view, if you want to go ahead to the next slide. So why does NASA care about eclipses? Sorry, I got to bring up the PowerPoint. Yep. Let's see.
Again, technology. We love it.
There. And I got to find it. It is right. There we go. Okay, and then I go back. Got the slide. I got the slide up.
Anita, while you're switching, did Anita answer? Is it
She
North Carolina?
did.
Go ahead.
So she will actually be in Nebraska.
Okay. Thank you, Anita, for the
Yeah,
correction.
and she said at that event, the mini moccasins dancers from the Ponca tribe will be there. So that is, and she said it's going to be very
awesome.
interesting to learn from them. So she's looking forward to that.
It will indeed be interesting to learn from them.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Anita.
thank you, Anita. Yeah, especially because I think that there will be many people watching this broadcast between now and the eclipse. So knowing what's happening there is really great. And it must be there's another event that I know that's happening with the drums. So
Yeah.
yes,
On
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
telephone.
Becky shared that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we're back to Ronnie.
Yep. So is it full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So now so one of the things that NASA likes to do, the eclipse is a good time to study the outer atmosphere of the sun, which we call the corona. You can see the strands out there, but one of the big science questions that our sun scientists have, solar physicists, is the outer atmosphere of the sun is so much hotter than it is close up. And during this time when the moon covers the sun, there will be telescopes, there are people with balloons, there'll be airplanes trying to get this image of the sun so that they can look at it. And this is also, when it's in totality, the only time that you can take off those solar glasses and look at the sun. And hopefully we should, for those that are in totality and it's going to be clear skies, we'd be able to see these strands. In some cases, there have been solar storms, coronal mass ejections, or flares that have come off that people have been able to see with the sun. Jay, do you have anything you want to add to what we're looking at here?
Okay, corona is outermost layer of the solar atmosphere. The corona is made of plasma, and with temperatures up to 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty hot and it's spectacular, but we expect you to see those coronas only during the total eclipse.
Now, NASA has been so interested in coronas, we've actually had spacecraft that we make up eclipses and study the corona. And then I believe this is from our SOHO spacecraft. And but still, it's, even though scientists can use this tool, they say they still don't get quite as much detail as they do when an actual real eclipse happens. Then I'm going to go back to my animations, if that's all right.
Click escape, and then click the share button again.
Here.
You see the green bar disappear.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, I think it's gone. Does it look gone? All right. You bring up the next animation. So the other thing that NASA is, and where Jay and expertise falls in, the moon is actually, this eclipse is a great time to do an experiment that we're going to be doing across the country. We have scientists that will be in Wyoming, Casper, and some that will be in Columbia, Missouri. And what they're interested in is, they're going to treat the moon kind of like a cloud. It's not a cloud, but in this case, it's a cloud that they know the shape and size. They know exactly where the path is going to be, and they're basically going to measure the energy in the atmosphere. And they're really interested in that outermost ring. And the reason is, it's actually for a big math problem, a big calculation that they're going to put this data in. But they use it to help model or simulate what clouds are doing around the planet. And eclipse is kind of like, a momentary moment where we're blocking the sun for a couple minutes and there's less energy coming into the earth. But clouds block the sun all the time, and they're in different shape and size. You have to worry about particles and aerosols that can also block. And having better models lets us understand our relationship with the sun a little better. And do you have anything to add, or do you want to talk at all about?
NASA scientists are using this total eclipse as a natural experiment that we can observe a cloud without a direct sun, that we can do a lot of radiative transfer studies.
So that's kind of one of the things to do. If we want to go to animate the next animation. So, and just to give you an idea, is it playing? But anyway, it just, again, really the Earth acts like a block again to study the glow. Why don't we just go ahead and go to the next animation? So as we talked about, one more after that? number 6. There we go. So Jaylee is a deputy project scientist on a mission called the Total
and spectral solar irradiance sensors.
Yes, and that's a mission that's going to the space station this fall. But for almost 40 years, NASA has been measuring how much heat and energy has been coming from the sun and into our atmosphere. And this is if you want to understand what's happening on the ground and how our environment is changing, we need to know what the sun is doing. And NASA has been measuring that for a long time. And next animation. So when the sun rays come in, we, on the instrument for TSIS, we'll be able to see many different wavelengths better than we ever before. And it allows us to see how that energy, or to know how that energy is going to come into the atmosphere. And clouds, as I talked about earlier, are one of the blocks for the energy, but also a very important block is the ozone. And you want to talk about what the ozone layer, how that helps us in this, why we need to know what's going on with the sun as far as our ozone layer.
Okay. Unfortunately, our planet Earth is covered by a ozone layer, which acts like shields for our atmosphere, our living environment. So most of the UVs are absorbed by ozone layer. So we are safely habitable here without much UV reaching at the surface.
And so they'll have very detailed measurements of the ultraviolet radiation. And as science, it's just, we think about stuff going up and impacting the ozone layer, but you got to also know what's coming in. And ozone to be produced needs light. And and in fact, the light that comes in, or the energy that comes from the sun, fluctuates over an 11-year period, which we call a solar cycle. There are very active periods, and we're going into a quiet period. So that's a very important thing to measure. And I don't really need to bring up an animation for this, but so I know someone's going to talk about our Globe Citizen Science Project, but so we have NASA scientists in a few places, but of course they can't be everywhere. And so we've been encouraging the public to join in our Citizen Science Project, and using an app on your phone you can download from globeobserver.gov, I think. But Eclipse, NASA Go, NASA Globe Observer. What we want to do is people take measurements of the atmospheric temperature and take pictures of clouds, and it's data that anybody will be able to access. And it's an experiment, whether you're in totality or outside totality, or it happens to be unfortunately cloudy where you are, you still can participate and enter these measurements and help us learn more about our planet in general. So, and even for those who do not want to be outside during eclipse, there's opportunities to participate in just studying clouds or a mosquito habitat. So lots of opportunities to learn science and be a scientist with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all.
Yes, and Ronnie, one other thing that I want to mention, I saw you hold up the glasses, and I want to say this very respectfully because we just covered the fact that not everyone will be watching the eclipse. But I also do want to say, if you are planning to watch the eclipse, for those watching the broadcast or who may hear this recording, it is critically important that you protect your eyes. And if you go onto we will show you the Eclipse website at the NASA Eclipse website at the end of this broadcast, and there is information on there about the appropriate eyewear that you need. So I do want to mention that whether you're watching or not, I want to make sure, whether you plan to watch the eclipse or not, let me clarify that. I want to make sure that everybody's aware that you do need protective eyewear to look at the eclipse that day if you plan to do that. So thanks for having the glasses there, Ronnie, to show that. Yeah. All right. Any questions or comments? I have a few, but I'm going to let everybody else go first. Anyone have any questions or comments for Ronnie or Jay? And let me know if anything comes in on there now.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, well, I have a question then. I know that you explained that the eclipse is due to the moon going in between the sun and the earth, and therefore blocking the sun coming to earth. So why don't we have an eclipse every time there's a new moon? Because when the moon is in between the sun and the earth, we don't see the lighted side of the moon. That's a new moon. But there are many times we have a new moon and we don't have an eclipse. Why is that?
Okay,
Go ahead.
Moon is 400 times smaller than Sun, but it's also 400 times closer than Sun. So at that moment, we are fortunate to have exactly the same size of Moon with same size of the Sun. But lunar orbit is changing every time, every day, slightly. So it's not every day. It does not happen every day, but once in a while, we can have exactly matching size of the moon with the sun. Yeah.
And there's actually an eclipse total solar eclipse every 18 months, but a lot of times they are over the ocean. So you can't get to it. It's rare to have an eclipse coming straight across the country on so much land. It's a treat for us, actually. So that answers that question.
There's a question coming in from Wind River. We're having a technical difficulty, I think. So
Ophelia and the group at Wind River, you do not need to mute your mic. And if we didn't make that clear, that's our fault. So I will clarify that. Karen, our producer, will be muting and unmuting mics. So you do not need to do that on your end. But at this time, if you would unmute so that we can hear you, that would be great. And while we're doing that, Elena, is there anything, I just want to check with you while they're unmuting, and you can leave it unmuted once you do that. Elena, was there anything you wanted to ask, say, anything?
No, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate this session, and especially hearing first from the Wood River indigenous piece first. And that's one of the things that we have learned when we're doing blending of different knowledges and perspectives, that we start with the indigenous knowledge and perspective first, and then do the Western science. So I'm really happy, and I'm learning a lot. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Elena. Yeah. Well, and if you just look at it historically, the indigenous knowledge came first. That has been gathered for thousands of years. So it does seem like an appropriate place to start. Yes. So thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Wind River, I think we've got you unmuted now. And again, you don't need to mute anymore. Karen will take care of that. Did you want to ask a question or make a comment?
Oh, I just had a comment. We just found out that our casino is going to be having some events during the eclipse, and they will be shooting some arrows at the moon. So that's what they did a long time ago during the prayer, the ceremony, and so they will be doing that too. And I had another comment about science and our traditional ways. I had a discussion with a lady one time, and we were talking about how the seasons, and even before education and science came about, our people knew when to plant, when to pick the herbs that we use as medicine, how to cut them. And that's called science now, but that is the way we have always lived, in harmony with nature. And we never took more than what we needed, and we have these conservationist people that come, and they're saying all this stuff, we need to do this, we need to do that. And that's just the way we have always lived before. So we lived in harmony with the land, and if we continue to do that, there won't be a shortage of our natural resources. So I just wanted to share that with everyone, and
Thank you so much for that perspective. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's why we're so glad that you guys could join us today and share your perspective on this, because science is really just a word that's come about, I guess you could say. It's you guys have, many indigenous traditions have been observing natural events for many, many more years than Western science. So we're very thankful for you to be here and share some things with us today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understanding the place where you live is critical, and I commend you. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing to be able to share and understand. So I think we'll switch gears.
We have one more question.
Oh,
Sorry.
we do? No, go ahead. I'm moving along. See?
One more question from our audience on YouTube. We've got a question for the team at Goddard. I'm not sure if you guys can answer it or not, but he asks, what type of filters can you use for regular telescopes or binoculars to view the eclipse? I don't know if Ronnie or Jay, if you guys know the answer to that, perhaps. I know I don't.
And I know that's on the Eclipse website. I'll say that.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I know you need a protective solar filter, and one of the things that NASA got a little nervous about with some of these people that were selling these glasses and stuff, we went out and tested. We had people go out and test the glasses they bought online, and found that it hurt to look at the sun with them. So when you have solar glasses that are built right and have a solar filter, if I were to put it on the inside here in the studio, even with the bright lights on me, I wouldn't be able to see much. And in fact, if you go outside with this, inside, you shouldn't be able to see inside. The only thing you'll be able to see with these glasses is looking straight at the sun. And you can see sunspots, you can see different things with the sun. So even you want to be careful to make sure there are no cracks into the glasses you get. Even if your glasses are old, more than 3 years old, that can be a problem. Some people were trying to sell Eclipse glasses from the last eclipse they experienced. And so that's kind of why NASA and the AAS and the medical doctors of optometry, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting the organization exactly right, but teamed up together, because this, in some ways, for the Native Americans who stay inside, it probably was safer. Kids naturally don't want to look at the sun. Luckily, we've had questions about should baby, do we have to worry about babies? It hurts to look at the sun and they'll turn away, but I have to imagine there was a safety issue too. And with Native Americans, hey, we're going to stay inside and stay safe, just so that people don't hurt their eyes. And eclipse injuries, someone said you should use the word blindness, but it is a real danger. So making sure you have proper eyewear. And even if you don't have glasses, there's instructions on how to make pinhole cameras. My daughter and I are planning to do that. Or even if you just turn around, you can face the ground, but have your fingers make a little pinhole camera. The other thing people have told me is going under trees and watching eclipse and looking at the shadow on the ground, where you'll see a lot of partial eclipses going through. I think that will be really neat, and I think you'll want to shift. So for those that are in totality and do have these glasses, there's that 2-minute moment where you will know it was safe, and it's basically when you can't see the sun anymore with these glasses, and you keep track of your time. But go ahead and take off your glasses and enjoy the experience and listen to what's around you. I think is important. So I know that was a long answer to somebody's question out there.
Yeah, and so his question, it was also in reference to telescopes and binoculars. So are you saying if you've got the glasses, you just wear the glasses and you can use the telescope and the binoculars?
But I don't know about that, but I do know that there are special telescopes with solar filters.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on the website. I was going to say, let's go to the website, but go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to talk over you, but let's go.
I just know there are telescopes built with solar filters. I don't know if you can add a solar filter, but you have to make sure that they are special. I don't think you can just grab a telescope you would normally use to look at the stars.
Right.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
So, and And I would recommend using the telescope and the glasses. I just assume that would be bad for your telescope if it's not made to look at the sun.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. I want to be clear, in as much as we are seen as NASA. You know, we are not promoting that you put on the glasses and look through your telescope. I do not know if that's safe, and I wouldn't want to assume that it is. So thank you. But the glasses in general for your eyes to look are the safest way to do it. So I think what we'll do now is show you the Eclipse website, because I recommend that's a great place to go to after that question. So if you want to know about the safety, we are now showing, and this is just Eclipse 2017.nasa.gov. And you can see within there, if you go down to the bottom, there's a pair of glasses, up a little bit. Yeah, and it says safety. So we're not going to click there now, but you can see the little safety icon there, and so that's where you'd go to learn about safety. Under Eclipse 101, which is up at the top there, there's a lot of information about the different points, some of the things that Ronnie was telling you as well, but there's also additional information there about how to watch the sun during the eclipse, and information about how to know your glasses are safe, and all of those kind of pieces. So lots of good information there. I mentioned that you can find out where events are happening, and that's under the events tab up there. So you can find them. There's a lovely map there. Sure, yeah, go ahead and click on that one. There's a great map there that tells you where things, you can click on that again, and that map shows you where all of the different events are happening, so you can find out what's happening near you. And as you can see, there are many of them, yeah. And I do want to point out while we're there, notice that not all of the events are in the path of totality, because as Ronnie said, there is science to be captured all over the United States during this time. So that's a nice piece as well. All right, so go ahead, Ronnie, did you want to say something else?
Coming out, if it's not already up on nasa.gov, about photographing the eclipse. And so how to do that for those that are photo specialists. So I recommend taking a look at that story, and they'll probably talk more about the proper solar filters and what that means for what type of equipment you need for that.
Great. Where was that again? One more time, because I
think that's on the nasa.gov site. I'm sure it's going to be on this Eclipse site as well.
Okay, great.
And as the final catch-all statement to this, if you're watching this broadcast, you have my email, because you got information that said this event is happening, and so you can go there. And the Esteem website has both of our emails. So if you can't find it anywhere, email one of us, and we will make sure to get the answer to you. So let's go on with a few other resources. That is a great resource to learn about the eclipse and to find out about safety as well. I also want to show you a resource. Let's see, let's go to, let's go to Globe next. Yeah, good idea. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about Globe, and Elena, I'm going to let you say a few comments there about Globe, because Elena is doing a Science Mission Directorate project, Arctic and Earth Signs. Sorry, Elena, I'll get it out. And I am participating in that with her as well. Thank you for the ability to do that. And so Elena is using Globe with teachers in Alaska. What we're showing you here on the Globe website, so if we can show that, the Globe website, and that is just globe.gov is where you can find that, really easy. And within the Globe website, there is information about how to collect many different kinds of data. So I'm going to go up and show you the top of it. That's okay. Let's go up. There we go. So you can see this is just the main Globe website. And then we went down, but there's information on how to get trained, how to join. There's a history, which we're showing you now, some of the history about the project and an overview. And then I want to go to the Observer, because community citizen science, or community science, is something that Elena focuses on heavily. And so, Elena, I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind, and I will fill in any gaps if you want me to as well. Oh, I think we'll wait for you to get unmuted. That's okay. There you go. You're good.
All right. So the NASA Globe Observer is one way of having anybody, not just students and teachers, participate in observing the environment. And so they have the Globe Observer, which is an app that can be downloaded on the phone. And right now on the app, they have not only the Cloud Observer, but also the Mosquito Habitat Mapper. And then they also have the Eclipse, where I think the app will be opened on the 18th of August, and people will be asked to, if they have the equipment, to determine not only the types of clouds and cloud cover, but also the temperature. And I think for the eclipse, what they want is observations and measurements before and after the eclipse, the total eclipse event. So Globe and NASA are interested in getting data, not just in the path of totality, but also in other places, because that would contribute to the knowledge of, how, well, our scientists say they're interested in radiation balance and all that. And so it's important. And I think for some people, they have been able to have access to the glasses, the safety glasses for viewing the eclipse. But the Globe Observer has been very popular and really very easy to use. So I encourage people to download it on their phones and try it out even before the eclipse.
Mhm. Right. Excellent point. Excellent point, Elena. You do want to download it before the eclipse. NASA is a little bit concerned that there will be so many people trying to download it on the day of the eclipse that might cause some problems. So I would definitely recommend, if you want to use it. Thank you. Great screen switch there. Yeah. That you download it ahead of time. And as Elena said, you can observe clouds all the time with this app. And so it's a great way to submit data to NASA and ground truth what the satellites are showing. So thank you, Elena. Yeah, that was great comments. Good. All right, so that's Globe. And I want to recognize that it is right about 5:15. We're going to run a few minutes over. If you're connected and you need to go, remember the recording will be on the ESTEAM website, nasa.gov/ESTEAM, and you'll be able to find it there later. But I do want to show you one other website. We'll go to Space Place, I think. Because if you have small children, before you even click, if you have young children, NASA Space Place is an excellent resource for activities for young children to help them learn about science. One of my favorite pieces is up at the top, if you want to, where the moon phases are, down a little more. There we go. You take Oreos and you help kids learn the phases of the moon through manipulating the amount of icing that's on their Oreo. So I just thought that was such a creative way to help kids learn about the phases of the moon and recognize those. But then if you'll go back, there is an entire section on the Space Place website, there we go, on what is a solar eclipse. And it shows animals watching the eclipse, which I think is beautiful. And explains the eclipse to kids and has some diagrams and things like that. And there's the Oreo activity down at the bottom. So it's all on one page. There we go. So you can find all of that together. So just wanted to highlight the Space Place as a resource for you. And then we'll go to the ESTEAM website. And this is where you will find the broadcast. So this is our project. I mentioned that we work with tribal colleges and universities all over the United States. You can find out more about that under the PI Community tab. But at this point, we're going to focus on the virtual tab because that's where the recording will be. So as you see, the Ask Us series has been going on. Caroline just redid this tab. I'll give her credit while we're connected. But if you click there, right now you're seeing the information about today's broadcast, but as soon as we get the recording ready to go, the recording will be there. And if you click on the recordings button there, Yep, you can see any recording from all of the sessions that we've done since 2014. Actually, 2013. There we go. Didn't realize how far back we went. So just want to let you know that. And then I want to show you one other piece there on the main website. We have a tab, one of the tiles that is resources, Earth Science Resources. And so if you click on that box there, I know and we're showing
fancy
the
spinning
eclipse
globe
there, moon going around the globe, you know. But you can find a lot of the citizen science that we just showed you from Globe. There's great visualizations that Ronnie was showing you. Some of those are from the Science Visualization Studio. And the NASA Earth Science website itself is up there. Up above the very top, NASA Earth Science is up there. So all of those resources are available on our website. And if you'll come down to the electromagnetic spectrum, there we go. That's all of the energy coming in from the sun. So that's a great place to learn about that. And right under that, NASA's Earth Energy Budget poster. Great teaching tool to understand the energy coming in from the sun. And when you click on that, it takes you, I believe, over to, and it lets you see how you can adapt the poster for your use and also get other resources from NASA Langley's Education and Outreach Science Department. So that's everything I want to show you there. Not that that's everything you need to know, but please do explore those resources. And then I'll just go back. Are there any other comments or questions that anybody? Did I leave anything out? Oh, I did forget one. Thank you, Caroline. I also wanted to highlight the Lunar and Planetary Institute website because it is a place where many different traditions related to the eclipse are on one page. So there's storytelling. Storytelling is an excellent way to share information and very highly used in the Native American community. So there's many different storytelling examples there. There are recordings to listen to and information about how the eclipse is seen from a variety of cultures, not just the Native American culture or Western science, but a variety of different cultures. So great resource there as well. And that's just, again, the Lunar and Planetary Institute website. And that's where that resource is housed. Mm-hmm. So I think that's everything. We went about 5 minutes over. I apologize if we're keeping anyone. I want to be respectful of your time, but I also am so pleased that we had such rich conversation and I didn't want to cut that short. So any other comments that anybody wants to make, say, ask?
I have one from the YouTube. I didn't know.
All right, we'll start there and then you can, if you have questions, we'll go there too. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a question. Someone was wondering, what advice would you give to the youth to get passionate about science in the Native American language? And so I don't know if our friends out at the Wind River Tribal College or anyone else that might have experience in that, ways to get youth engaged in science that's specifically in the Native American language from whatever tribe they're with. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if anyone has any. I don't have an answer to that.
And I'll broaden that to indigenous communities and ask Elena. But first, let's see if anybody from Wind River wants to comment. Ophelia, does anyone there? It's okay if you don't. You don't have to comment, but is there anything you want to say? I'm coming to you first. And we're not hearing you. If you're muted, you'll need to unmute. It looks, I can't tell if you are or not. Okay, we're not hearing you. I think someone will need to unmute on your end, maybe.
Almost. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, again, on that, as far as getting them interested in science, we had what was that program?
Yeah.
We had a few programs that came out, and that's really interesting because a lot of there was a book out about 4 years ago about a Chippewa Indian that went home, and he thought there was no science or biology in their tradition. And then when he went to speak with one of his elders, he found out how much there was in it, with all the beliefs pertaining to the animals, the natural resources, the water, the plants, and he found just a whole new dimension there to explore. And so I believe that would be like one way to get our native students interested in it. is to have them look at the biology part of it because it refers to like the water, the water cycle, and all of the things that we already know about, and they can relate to it.
Great.
That's a really good point. And again, what I think is beautiful about that is that those observations would go back much further than any of the Western science would as well. So that would be really powerful to be able to, a good starting point to go from. Thank you. All right. Elena, I know you work specifically with Indigenous communities, some of them that are dealing with huge environmental problems. I know I met teachers from Shishmaref while I was there. So how, I know you're doing this, but I'll let you tell it. How do you get the youth involved in these projects and get them excited about science?
Okay, so one of the things we did was during our training workshop to invite not just the educators, but also community members. And so, the educators and the community members learned the measurement protocols in GLOBE, but then they were also thinking of the issues or challenges that their community face, and their assignment was to go back to the community and talk with other elders and or local leaders and the youth to talk about what interests them. And so in the learning cycle model, we include not just the Western science of, observing, asking a question and everything, but also following the traditional indigenous way of observing the environment, and but consulting with the elders, the indigenous leaders in the community and the youth, so that they can together probably see if they can do a stewardship project or work towards working to a solution that faces their community. That's how we're trying to do it in our Arctic and Earth Science, which is exploring feedbacks and impacts of climate change in communities.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and again, we will provide links to things, but just in case you want to take a note right now, it's Arctic, the word Arctic, and
Earth
Signs, S-I-G-N-S. So if you Google that, you'll find that project. And so in a nutshell there, involving community members along with the teachers that are working with the students helps to empower the children to be able to work and to actually do something purposeful within their community, which gives them ownership of the science and that piece. So thank you, Elena. Daniela, is there anything you wanted to add?
Sure, yeah. I can just talk briefly about how our collaboration, my collaboration with the Navajo Nation has unfolded. And what we've tried to do is, again, bring together cultural knowledge and scientific knowledge of a particular topic like the stars or the sun or the moon, the earth. And so it takes a long time. Our Navajo colleagues spend a lot of time discussing this and vetting the content that they bring to the table, especially when we were co-creating the hands-on activities. Mm-hmm. It's up to them which stories are appropriate, which types of knowledge they want to bring forward into the activities. And so we all held space open for that and lots of time for that to occur. And then we, from the scientific side, the NASA side, brought in, pieces to match that and overlap to that and map to it. And we talk about a dual learning environment, which we try to create in our teacher workshops and our student summer camps, where both ways of knowing, both stories about the topic are contributed into the dual learning space, and hands-on activities kind of provide an opportunity for the learner to compare, contrast, weave those things together, see them both as equals, and decide for themselves what the connections are between the two bodies of knowledge. And so we don't really talk about blending or melding. We talk about weaving or bringing together or creating space for interaction. But again, all of that is in the hands of the learner. So looking at both of those pieces of knowledge, we are always bringing in as much richness on both sides as we can. In terms of the Navajo side, there's a lot of opportunity to look at the different aspects of language, and we're always kind of emphasizing that and teaching the kids different words for different things, and I should say co-teaching. It's really not me doing this. I'm just doing the science side of it with others. My Navajo colleagues and I stand shoulder to shoulder and make this happen together. So we're modeling that for the youth as well. So I think our goal, our outcome that I think we've achieved over the years is, again, cultural knowledge and cultural identity comes first. And once you're grounded in that, and you can see that science matches that, maps to it, supports it, is not the other, that there's a lot of resonance between the two, then maybe the youth will be inspired to pursue science on their own terms and contribute to it very uniquely.
Awesome.
Thank
Great
you.
comments, yeah. Daniela, where can folks find the guides that you mentioned? Because I know there are folks watching saying, what guides? Where should we? So let me ask you that question.
Sure. Our website is astrobiology.nasa.gov. And if you look in the education section of that website, you'll find a link to the whole project, and the guides are downloadable there.
Okay, great. Thank
Great.
you. Astrobiology. There we go.
Also,
.nasa.gov.
just to share, earlier in the broadcast, I didn't have time to share this then, but we had a viewer who said that she wanted to thank you, Daniela, for your social justice oriented approach to this hangout and the information that you shared. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
Great.
Appreciate hearing that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. All right. Are there any closing thoughts, comments that anyone wants to make? I'll do my teacher wait time. All right. Well, I apologize for running 15 minutes over. Well, actually, I'm not sure I apologize. This was a beautiful use of time. So I apologize if I affected any schedules, but I thank you so much for being with us, and we'll sign off at this time. And again, you can find the recording on the Esteem website shortly. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.